dream must stay alive.
What's going on?
Petsy's my best friend, and I've tried, but I can't manage without her. I love her very much. So, if she's going to be virus, then I'm going to be virus too.
So welcome to episode 40 of Conversation on Eagle Mountain, a podcast about the tribe. I'm your host, Lance, and joining me on the podcast panel today is Liz.
Hello.
Sabine.
Hi.
And Maggie.
Hi.
With episode notes done by Matt and myself. So episode 40, the screenplay was done by Joe Boyle. It was directed by Lawrence Wilson, and the episode synopsis will be read out by Liz.
What was once believed to be a blessing becomes the Mallrats' worst nightmare when it's discovered that the mysterious old man seen wandering the streets is actually Glenn, who now has the virus and has begun rapidly aging. And he's not the only one out there. Is the virus contagious? If so, are the Mallrats now infected?
Okay, so let's jump right into the episode. So, as the Mallrats try to make sense of Glenn's condition, they soon realize it can mean only one thing. The virus is back, and it has mutated. Facing a suddenly uncertain future, the tribe members react in very different ways. Panel, what were your first thoughts on these reactions? And what is it like watching this episode now, given our current pandemic times?
I think it's very different for me to watch it back then and watch it now. Because before the pandemic, my initial response was, oh no, we should take care of him, and I wasn't worried at all about them touching him and, trying to isolate people. And now the only thing I can think of is, of course you're going to try to isolate people. You need to contain this. Seeing it in the light of our current pandemic has changed the way I look at this episode significantly.
Oh, me too, for sure.
It has no effect on my thinking because I always felt that they were doing the right thing. I didn't look at it before like they were overreacting, or it just made sense that, yeah, you guys don't know how this is spreading. You don't know how it's contagious. You literally watched a global pandemic wipe out every adult on the planet already. Mm-hmm. So frankly, I thought they might not have been taking it serious enough,
Yeah, that was the way I felt, yeah.
I was like, yeah, this is super serious. This is the smartest thing these kids could have done. It was very compassionate of them not to throw Glenn out, but they're isolating him. And so I don't feel any different because that's the way I always felt about it. It's I guess the only difference is I kind of know more firsthand the sort of fear that they must be feeling, but I was able to imagine it already. I'm a Gen Xer, and we've been waiting for the apocalypse all our lives. So,
sorry, I'm a millennial,
Like they drilled into our head from day one that it's all going to end soon. So I was that weird kid who had evacuation plans for everything, and was just very aware of this kind of stuff. But again, I was an adult when I saw it. And
I only had those evacuation plans after watching The Tribe.
Basically, yeah.
Man, I had evacuation plans for our pets, our fish. My family thought I was crazy. Like, you made me this way.
Hey, I had plans for the kids I babysat. I was assuming all adults would die.
Wow.
That's the pandemic you thought would happen.
Yep. I was just thinking, oh crap, I'm going to be in charge of all of these kids I'm already in charge of.
Oh, man.
No, it really was drilled into my head, my whole generation. I remember, we were forced to think about nuclear war. They made us watch The Day After in school. I remember one teacher in middle school gave me an assignment, write a letter to your parents, and it's the last letter you'll ever write to them. Like, we had to think of a scenario where we'd never see our parents again when we were 13. Like, it was just sort of drilled into our heads that it could all go really wrong. Like, any day now, guys. Like, the Cold War is over. Why are you doing this to us?
I mean, I have quite a lot of people older than me in my family, but I've never heard anything like that from this part of the world before.
I do like the reactions from everybody, and this is one of those episodes that shows you who characters are at their core, like who they are in the dark, because their true colors really come in. The things that really frighten them come out. I found it interesting. For example, one of Tai-San's first reactions is fear.
Yeah.
When she realizes what Glenn has, like the way she moves back, and she gains control of herself, but that was her first reaction. Like, oh, that's scary. That terrified me. So yeah, I like the way each character, you could just see really they're stripped down at this moment, who they really are and what their knee-jerk reaction to this new crisis is, says a lot about them.
I mean, I understand like Lex and Zandra being like, he needs to go. You need to get him out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like their initial fear of it. That's how they reacted to it.
I don't think any of their reactions were bad.
No, me neither. You know what I mean? I'm just, the difference in characters. Like, I don't know how Ryan or Celine would have reacted in that initial moment.
Because I would have been like, he needs to go. Absolutely. That would have been my first need.
Me too. That's what I said. I was like, oh, I agree.
Like,
I
he
agree.
needs to go. If he's infected, he needs to get out of the mall. Patsy's reaction. Oh, it was heartbreaking.
Oh, yeah.
I would just want to disinfect everything.
It's really well acted, all those, you could watch it over and over again and just focus on one character and just to see how they're reacting to this, how they're coping with it. And these kids, they put a lot of work into their acting of what's going on in their heads, and it's very well done, well handled, well directed.
Just to pick up on that earlier point, like, do you think their reactions went far enough, considering, like, it has just been, all the outs have just been wiped out? Do you think they were too safe in their reaction, if that makes sense?
I think they may have been a little too casual about it.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely would have been like, okay, well, get him away from me, get him somewhere, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't, and even like with Patsy and Lex, like they're basically within touching, and if it's, airborne or whatever, it's just not a good situation. And I think they were all just like too, casual and nonchalant about it as they were isolating people.
I would have grabbed that baby and ran.
For sure. Like, I couldn't believe Trudy was just there. I was like, whoa, man.
I think it might be a trauma response from what they've already experienced. I'm sure a lot of adults tried to go into hiding thinking that if they were isolated, they wouldn't get the virus. And it clearly did not work. Everybody got it, no matter where they were, no matter where they tried to hide, even if they were in no contact with anyone, they still got the virus. And I do think that would mess up your head. Like if you saw that and realized there was literally nothing the adults could do to save themselves. I do think it's a bit of a trauma response for some of the kids, where there's almost a like, well, this might as well happen,
Amber did say they knew it was out there, like
you can respond by being terrified, or I think some of them are just actually in a sort of shock, like, okay, they've already done this and they don't know how this has mutated. They even admit they don't know if it's the virus. They don't know how it's transmitted. And just not having any of those answers can also just kind of shut down what you could properly do in any given scenario.
Yeah.
I do think it's cool that they managed to hold on to their humanity in this moment, where they don't throw Glenn out on the street because, well, he could die out there.
Yeah.
But they were like, we do have to isolate you. And they're very kind when they say it. Like, they want to make it clear, this isn't personal, but we can't have you touching anybody in here, man, And so I thought that was impressive, too. That this is not a moment for them to manifest any resentment towards each other or hatred towards each other. Is it a little too optimistic? It's a little Roland Emmerich there, definitely. His message is that adversity brings us together, and it's a nice one, but I'm not sure all of us would respond that way. But it does go with the tone of what the tribe is supposed to be about anyway. The freaking song is, if we're going to survive the dream of our lives.
That's what the mall rats are about.
If these kids had gone total Lord of the Flies and like stoned Glenn,
I absolutely did not expect at all for them to throw him out on the street,
It does make me wonder, though, if that's how the last few remaining adults died.
If the kids hadn't taken over by then, and I mean, I could see Zoot doing that.
Yeah.
No! You're right, Zan. We can't take the chance. Zan.
Yeah, let's talk about Lex, because after his low point in the last episode, he takes the news that he has to be isolated surprisingly well. And despite being afraid, he tries to make light of the situation when he's quarantined in his room and shows genuine concern for Zandra. Panna, what did you think about this kind of turnaround that we see?
I thought for a moment, I was like, okay, there it is. You know, there's a little bit of redeemedness, you know, like maybe he's not so bad and he actually does care about someone other than himself. And I think he does, you know, in his own way. But I think it was very refreshing to see him just do as was expected of him without putting up a fight.
I think this shows that underneath everything, Lex is a human being. And he's seen what happens if people get ill. And yeah, for once, he doesn't want to be the person causing that.
I've always said this about Lex. He's, when he's not like a very trustworthy person, but when he genuinely and he cares about people and they are his people, he's loyal. You know what I mean? Like, he'll do what he can. I think this is kind of the start to showing a little bit of that, but I guess we'll see.
When we first started doing these and we were just doing more of an overall discussion of the characters, I had said I love who Lex is in the dark when nobody's looking. And I kind of really like what the writers did here. It's something I would do. You take a character so far down to almost irredeemable, and then you pull out more. You're like, oh no, we haven't reached the bottom of the box when it comes to this person. There's more in here. It's just you need a trigger, you need a striking point, you need to be at the bottom of the well for those colors to come out. And this really is a bottom of the well moment for Lex to be told you may be infected with something that you know can kill you. And at that point, there is nowhere to go. And the rest of his colors end up coming out. And I do believe this whole experience is a very big turning point for Lex, because of all the things Lex will do in the future, he will never try to betray his family again.
That's what I'm saying. You get what I would, yeah.
I get what you're saying. Like, this is his lowest point, and his family stands by him. These people proved that he does not have to keep up that guard with them anymore. He doesn't have to treat them like an enemy anymore. I do like the fact that you don't expect Lex to handle this with such dignity.
No.
Or even give a crap that he could infect his tribe mates in that moment. I like the small moment he takes to himself, like to just come to terms with the fact that, holy crap, I could be sick, I could be dying. And his first instinct is to stop his biggest cheerleader from possibly being infected by him.
Yep.
It's just a refreshing. They could have just said, no, that's not Lex's. We've already showed you everything he is. So
yeah.
There's nothing else. And that's like Sabine said, no, he's a human being. There's endless things in that box.
Yep. and this is just the start.
So, and I feel like a writer was like, no, I want to take him as far as I can in the worst direction possible. Do you think I hate him? There's nothing to like about him. And then surprise you with the light inside of him, you know? I totally understand people who don't feel like this redeems his actions. I'm not going to say that they should forgive him.
No.
But for
like
me,
I said, it's a start.
It's what I love about his character, how rich he is, you know?
Yes.
He's not fully dark side.
Because nobody is, you know? Those would be very boring characters.
Yep.
We love characters who are rich, and there's so many facets to them, and they're compelling, and that's why Lex has always been a very popular character.
Yeah, aside from being a little adorable, you know.
You can track his honor code because it does exist. And like I said, this is a turning point where the Mallrats, they legit become something, a people to Lex that he would never personally harm ever again.
Yeah.
He may inadvertently hurt them by accident, but he never goes out of his way to betray one of them again or harm one of them again.
Yep.
Because they passed muster, and
that's why I say he is loyal, to those that are loyal to him, I guess. You know what I mean? But they're his family. Like, he would do whatever. And I think this just kind of shows that, and I like that it shows it.
It kind of reminds me of foster kids who, if you've ever talked to parents, people who have adopted or have fostered kids, it's been studied that sometimes what they'll do is push the parental units in their new home because they're so used to people giving them up. And they'll push and push and push so that so they have control of the rejection they're convinced is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a long time to prove to these kids that, no, you're not going to throw them away. You're not going to give them away. This is their forever home. And they'll keep pushing you, convinced that if I do this, you'll finally give up on me. And I'd rather you do it when I'm ready for it than lessen my guard. And I feel like that's how Lex has treated the Mallrats, convinced that they're not worthy of his concern because he doesn't trust them to care about him. And they proved to him through this that, no, we aren't throwing you away. You're ours, for better or for worse. And they become his forever home after this.
Yep. And I love it.
You should have told me. Instead of letting me think you were a grown-up. You should have said something.
Makes no difference now.
It does to me. I brought you here. Everybody blames me for what's happened.
You were my last chance. I'd be dead right now if you hadn't come along. Dead might be better.
We have to talk about Patsy in this episode because her reaction and emotion was really well done. But I also felt like she had suddenly been aged up in this episode. What was your reaction to that?
Somebody give that girl a trophy.
For real.
Sarah Major delivered in this episode.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That child ripped my heart out of my
Absolutely.
chest. Oh,
I was so mad at Jack. So mad at him.
Mm-hmm.
It was entirely his fault that this happened. It was, in my opinion. If he never would have showed her that video, convinced her that this was, what it was, she wouldn't have gone out there. She would have stayed where she was. However, this was a lesson for her. A real lesson, in reality and what things actually are.
I also don't feel like she ages up so much as that we see her true age shine through. I honestly do feel like Patsy regresses the way she behaves as protection.
Mm-hmm.
Because she does tend to sometimes flip-flop between a standard 9-year-old or 10-year-old and a 6-year-old in her innocence. I believe in Santa Claus. No, you don't, Patsy. But it feels good to say you believe in Santa Claus because it's such a simple belief to have. And you kind of wish you could believe in Santa Claus because that's when the world was shiny and new and nothing could hurt you. And I do feel like Patsy wears that as armor because she feels safer, pretending that she has no clue what's going on and everything's simple and all the other kids will take care of us. And no, but she doesn't actually believe that stuff because she's seen with her own eyes the real world. And this just rips her armor off, The last thing Patsy would ever want to do is hurt her family. And to find out she brought something that could kill them into the mall because she wanted to believe in Glenn. She looked at him and she wanted to believe he was a grown-up who would come take care of them. And because she wanted to believe it so bad, he was able to fool her and lie to her. And that betrayal, it just strips her of her childish armor,
And yet she still goes to him and talks to him about it, which is so much more than I expected her to do.
Yeah, that was a sad moment.
Why would you do that to me? Why would you endanger my family? You knew what I thought. You knew I thought you were grown up, and you lied to me, and you let me bring you here,
Yeah.
But I also love her empathy at the end of that. She can't stay angry at him. It's really beautiful. I mean, she was killing me this episode.
Yeah. I'm normally not a big Patsy fan, but man, she got me.
Mm-hmm.
She did. She laid it all out.
Absolutely. And like I said, I was so mad at Jack, man. I was like, really? You're really going to say that? Like, why would you bring him here? Really? Like,
Why do you
dude,
think that?
this is entirely your fault.
Because of your denial.
Uh-huh.
She believed you, you know? I love how she calls him out on that.
I love it too.
I brought him here because of you. I believe you,
Absolutely.
Jack. You know, I wanted to prove you were right.
I was like, that a girl, you did it. Oh, what an episode.
And it sucks because we all hang on to our childhood as long as we can in bits and pieces. And it really stinks the day you realize that it's gone and you can't hold on to it anymore. You can't pretend anymore. I used to have this place I played. I called it the Woods. And when I was little, it looked like the forest from the movie Legend to me. You know, it was magical, and there were forest sprites in there, and it could be anything I wanted it to be. I played in there my entire childhood. And then when I was 14, I was visiting the place, and I was trying with every fiber of my being to see it the way I had as a child. And that was the moment I realized I couldn't. Like, it hit me. My childhood is gone. I can never pretend it was. You know, I just see it for what it is. And it hurt that moment. And I'm seeing that in Patsy's eyes. And I want to give her a hug.
Yeah.
Like, damn you, Glenn. That's why I said it was so dark.
You know, but I think she also handled, you know, being isolated well enough. You know, she's a child.
Oh, she handled it great.
You know what I mean? Like, that's hard. That's got to be really rough. But I think her being able to watch Lex handle things so well encouraged her enough. You know what I mean?
Oh, she was so brave. She really
Absolutely, she was.
But that line she says, I've not only brought it here, I've gone and got it. I'm like,
oh my God, right in the heart. Oh, girl. The mom and me, man.
Nope, I want to cradle her. It's okay, baby.
I got you, boo-boo. It's cool.
I'll be sick with you, honey. It's okay. I'm not going to leave you alone.
Oh.
So yeah, I mean, we have to compare her reaction and how she handles the truth with how Jack does, because despite this realization, he suddenly throws himself back into his old routine of trying to search for a real adult on the radio. Yeah, what did you make of that panel? Do you think it showed his lack of confidence, or did he really just not want to let go of that dream?
It was total denial.
Absolute denial. He didn't, want to be the reason, for one, that this guy was brought back here, that the virus was here. Like, there has to be an adult somewhere. It had to be someone else, you know what I mean? Like,
someone that can solve this.
Because he doesn't want to be the one to do it.
Jack has been in denial since we met him.
Oh, that poor kid.
Every time someone tries to take his blinders off, he reacts violently and aggressively. No, that's his trauma response. That's his protective layer against the reality of the world. And so I was like, wow, talk about doubling down, buddy.
Puts them glasses down and he's like, nope, it's my shield.
Because the truth is terrifying. You know? It would be so much easier to believe that, think about it, what is safer to believe, that there are adults still out there, or no, the virus is now coming after us? Which one would you prefer to believe,
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like in this situation, I would want to believe that there's no possible way that every single adult in the entire world was gone. There's no way. Like that, I feel like that's what I would think. But man, he's gotta get with it. He's gotta face reality.
And it's been a consistent thing for him. So I do like that. This is very on brand for Jack. He's been like this from the beginning.
Yep.
And you gotta wait. It's like St. Fire practice, buddy. It's the real deal. Wake up.
Yep.
Time to pop that bubble. Eventually, you gotta push the kid out of the nest. Wake up.
That's what Dell's trying to do.
Because your denial is gonna get you killed. That's what's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad for him, though. Is that weird?
No, I don't think it's weird. You have empathy for what he's going through and what he's feeling.
It's like he's so convinced that there has to be someone out there, someone that can help them. If only he can reach them. If only he works hard enough. And, well, the reality is they aren't.
He's never going to be able to work hard enough in order to do it. He's going to fail. And that's sad.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's what Dell tells him is absolutely the right thing. You're our scientist now.
Yep.
You're the closest thing we have. You have to figure this out, Jack.
I love that he needed his boyfriend to slap some sense into
He
him.
did. I was like, oh, look at that.
Like, Dal was trying to be patient with him, and then he's just like, okay, I love you. I gotta get harsh. I gotta knuckle down with you and just shake some sense into your head.
Yep.
You know, enough is enough. Okay, knock it off. This is ridiculous. I love you, but I can't let you live in your denial bubble anymore. It's not helping anybody.
It's dangerous.
So get it together, because we freaking need you. Okay?
Yes. Big ol' smooch and it would have been done.
Come get me when you're thinking clearly.
Every time you say stuff like that, I'm imagining it. I can see it in front of me.
Dude, it's canon.
Yeah, I mean, Jack's cheeks were awful flushed when the camera went to them. Just saying.
This wasn't queer baiting. This was just low key. This was the relationship happening.
It's what it was.
Their fight was never about Ellie.
Never.
Homewrecker.
She was a complication.
It was all good before she came along and spoiled it. Speaking of love, how do you think the two remaining leaders handled the situation? And how did you feel about it, drawing them two closer together?
I like it.
I mean, I like it too. It's just the first thing I said. I was like, wait a minute. Didn't she just rejoin civilization?
Yeah, but remember, it was like
Sasha left.
It was like a week and a half, and in Tribe World, that is an eternity.
That's a decade. Yeah, I guess you're right. Okay.
I mean, the water trial was literally just this morning.
All right,
then
I'm totally good with it. I'm totally good with Team Bramber. I'm awesome. I'm on board.
She's finally at a morning. She can take off the black taffeta. It's okay. She's allowed to move on.
She's told him that she doesn't want him to leave. He needs to stay for her. It's cool. It's good.
Not to mention for Bray, it's a definite wake-up call. All the effort she was putting into keep him from being tossed out, and the fact that she believed wholeheartedly he hadn't done this, and she was like, don't let Lex win, and she was fighting so hard. I think that was Bray, like, oh, I matter to her, you know.
Yes,
maybe it's time to stop sulking.
He has. His attitude has changed quite a bit.
Maybe there's some hope here, you know.
Yes,
I do like that this gives them both something to focus on. I also love the fact that Bray, he's not the take charge kind of guy. This isn't really his forte, and he's trying, and you can see he's floating ideas out and seeing how Amber responds to it, and you can see the pleasure center of his brain lighting up every time she's like, that's a good idea.
Yes.
You know, he's responding like positively to his help. He's like, oh, okay, I'm on the right track, I'm doing this right, this is good.
He's a pleaser, we know now.
She just wanted me to get off my ass. Why didn't I figure
it out? And she told him. That's the horrible thing. Like, she just told him, dude, do something. Take some initiative. It's nice to see.
Yeah.
It really is. And I really enjoyed that little scene, you know, them having their coffee or their tea or whatever it was. And then, you know, like, as she went back to her room and sat in her bed and he followed her and sat down, I go, Bray, did she invite you? I don't remember hearing her inviting you to sit on her bed.
Come on, Maggie. Her body language was like, you know, that slow turn us girls do. If you want to. Her shoulders were totally like, come in here.
Oh, it was nice.
The bashful retreat. I was like, good on Bray for following it and reading the signal.
Yes, good job.
I liked their chemistry. I loved their eye contact. It was very precious.
And we really got to see how well they work together.
Yes.
As a team, you know, to lead this tribe. Yeah. They're very good. It's nice. It was good. It was about time we saw it, you know. Like, really saw it. I'm happy.
I thought it was very adorable.
It was.
Another little Bray thing I did find adorable in this episode, though, was that he was the one to grab hold of Chloe just before she was coming too close.
Yes.
Yeah, his little protege.
And I like that Amber acknowledged that, you know, she told him, you know, you got to Chloe before she got to Patsy. You did good. Yeah. And he enjoyed hearing that, needed to hear it.
But at the end of the day, we always see Bray being the first to reach Chloe quite often.
Yeah, that's true.
How realistic do you think it was for the suggestion that they could find out more about the virus?
The suggestion to start at the library just had me cracking up.
I wondered, I'm like, why the library?
What on earth can you find there?
I think they were going to try and find old newspapers. Remember back then, you guys, The library still had newspapers.
That's true. But then they said the newspaper or whatever, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then I'm like, government buildings? Yeah, that's a good place to start.
That sounds like a great place to start. Or, you know,
it's a good idea to do, you know? Like, and I thought it was funny how they were trying to figure out who was going to stay behind, which meant that they were in agreement with the plan. And Amber's still like, we just need to know if it's a good idea. Like, girl, they are trying to figure it out already.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like the realistic dialogue in that, because sometimes conversations can do that. Amber asks one question, which is, do you think we should do this? And it kind of devolves and loses its focus, and now they're focusing on who should go, and she's just like, look, right now, slow down. Just tell me if you want to do this, you know.
But they could have skipped a whole step.
I still liked the dialogue.
Oh yeah, I too. And I like that Trudy was the first one to be like, well, I'm gonna have to stay with the baby, you know. Well, yeah, that makes sense.
Kudos to Trudy, man. She has been holding herself up like a champ.
I know. I love it.
The last few crises that have been happening, I'm like, you go, girl. Like,
yes.
There's no way I'm feeding the diseased guy when I have a child to think of.
Okay, I'll bring it up. Thank you for bringing it up, because yes, that really annoyed me actually. There's two things that annoy me so much about this episode, and that's one. How could they let Trudy go and feed Glenn?
It's insane.
But the child, they shouldn't let her do that. She's got a child to think about. Like, no, sorry, no.
She's the only one with a child that small.
That's who hasn't been immunized. Hello.
No.
This kid could fall over dead from the chicken pox. Come on, guys.
It was not smart. Not smart at all.
Yeah, I did think it was a little cavalier. But I'm giving kudos to Trudy for focusing on solving the problem rather than her fear. And if she can be a productive member of her tribe, she can't go out searching for answers. She can't fight off intruders. She can do this. She can take care of people. And I have had those moments as a parent where I assume the smartest thing would be to just focus on my children and keeping them safe.
Mm-hmm.
But I made a decision for the greater good, because my children will still benefit from that greater good. It's not an easy choice to make, and you're not a bad person if you don't make it. But I think a lot of the headspace these kids are going into is a coping mechanism so the fear doesn't take over. And Trudy wants to just do something. Keep your mind on helping, fixing. You know, nobody else is going to want to feed Glenn. Everybody else is very terrified. And so, yeah, I mean, I still think it's risky. I wouldn't have let her do it. I would have been like, what about Brady?
Where's her mask?
I admire her for doing it. That's all.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I mean, something you just said, where's her mask? But back when the adults got the virus, we barely see anyone with masks.
Well, there were some in some of the flashbacks.
In the flashback, all the teachers had masks at the school dance.
Yeah.
Yeah, but while Bray's dad was dying, he wasn't wearing a mask. The teacher and
again, this isn't going to matter, but it's because at that point in time, his children were the only ones visiting him. They can't catch it. I'm sure the doctors were wearing masks, but he's already freaking infected and he can't give it to his kids. You know.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I admire it. Again, I really do admire, because I tend to, when I'm going through a stressful time, if I can find positive choices, like positive options, it can help it keeps despair from sinking in. As long as I feel like I have an option of what I can do next, if this doesn't work, what can I do next? As long as I have a list of to do next, just in case, I'll feel better about the situation. And honestly, where else would these guys look? You know, where would you find information about the virus? I'm sure many of them weren't paying attention to the logistics of the virus. And I do think it's pretty optimistic that they think they could find an answer that would help at all. But it's better to be proactive than to just sit in the mall and despair about the fact that we're all going to die.
Yeah.
I can't say I would do it as an adult, because I'd have this bitter realism sitting there going, there's nothing I can find out that's going to help us. You know, I'd be like Zandra, like, why do you think we could figure the answer out? The adults didn't, but I get why they would latch on to it. Because honestly, if you're watching the show, what is more interesting? The mall rats languishing in the mall running away or trying to discover something about this virus. I mean, haven't we
Yeah.
about the virus? Haven't we all wanted to
That's
know
what I
it
was just gonna say anyway. Like for plot purposes, it makes total
Right,
sense.
you know?
If they do something interesting.
We finally get to find out what killed half the world.
Yes, yes, love it. Let's do it.
I guess it's just weird in a way, like someone like Jack hadn't been compiling information about the virus.
Yeah, you would think that Jack would have a little bit of information.
Some information, yeah.
Or even Val, with family who worked in hospitals.
Well, I think it makes sense that they don't because, one, what Dal took away from the virus is that medicine could do nothing, which is why he lost his dreams of becoming a doctor. He watched his parents try to save people over and over again. Then he had to watch them come home at the end of the day with several patients probably dead and realize the harsh way that medicine was going to do nothing. Okay. And then you've got Jack, who just went into straight in denial. So, of course, he's not going to learn about the virus because that was his trauma response to this whole thing. It's going to blow over and the grown-ups in hiding will come out and fix everything. I don't think it's weird that none of these kids would have stockpiled information about the catastrophe around them. I mean, look at how people have responded to this. There are people who have been online or constantly trying to learn about Corona, and there's other people who just kind of want to pretend it doesn't matter. It's not that dangerous. Yeah.
True.
Yeah, speaking of the virus, let's head outside the mall for a bit because during all these events, Casey attempts to leave the mall only to discover that things are suddenly going to hell outside with lynch mobs attacking anyone infected by the virus. But my question to the panel is, like, do you think this was effective at showing the situation in the city, or do you think this really should have been sprinkled out more in the previous episode? Do you think it happened too suddenly?
Not really. I mean, it's obvious they didn't have this plot line set up. So they didn't know this is where we're going. So they couldn't set any breadcrumbs or foreshadowing for it. But as soon as they knew this is where they're going, I do think, I don't know. I don't know. It didn't feel too sudden to me, I guess.
I didn't think so either.
No?
The one thing that surprised me, though, is that we never see anything from where Ebony is at that point in time. Because we've seen her before when something's going on. If something's going on in the city, Ebony is a part of it, yet we don't see her during this. At least not yet.
They're waiting because they knew they're bringing her back in a big way. And they want it to have more impact, you know?
Yeah.
When she suddenly ends up back on the scene and a part of the Mallrats' lives, I have a feeling that's why we're not focusing on her. I guess I'll just give them a pass because, again, we have that whole second third of season 1 where everything just sort of drags. But considering when this virus probably started to pop up, it seems like it happened pretty fast. I don't know. I guess I just didn't feel like it was too jarring. I thought Glenn was a really good red herring on the camera.
Yeah.
That leads us into the storyline. And again, our Mallrats have been holed up ever since the tribal gathering.
Yeah, we don't see much of outside.
Well, we've had Abba and Sasha going out and then Celine going out.
To the beach.
Everyone's been going out to different areas.
But again, remember, we have a time jump after Sasha has left and nobody's gone anywhere. So there's a number of things that have happened in those 10 days that she was mourning Sasha. And, but yeah, it is, I won't lie. I'll give you points. It's true. I mean, you have Bray who's still going out for food and he never saw any hint of this, and them going out for their water at the stream. It does seem a little like, how did Sector 10 stay so isolated from this spreading? But Sector 10 does seem kind of empty, so maybe it's just that there's not much of a population over there.
Maybe. Because
that's part of why the Mallrats have never been sussed out by other tribes. I don't know. I think it's plausible. I'll just put it out. It's plausible that this has all been happening and the Mallrats were isolated from it. Is it writing convenience? Sure, definitely. Convenient.
It does make you wonder how quickly someone gets to this level of ill.
Yeah.
After being infected.
I will say they're extremely inconsistent with how they handle the virus.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no experts on the writing staff. But again, given who their audience is, but yeah, it's really inconsistent about how quickly you get it, how quickly you start to show symptoms, how long you can languish with it before you get well. we don't really have a control to let us know. Like, we only meet Glenn at the very tail end of his infection. We don't know how long he's had it. He doesn't give us a timeline. And then Lex, he's a very special case because of things that affect what he has. And then in season 2, they kind of take the virus in a whole different direction. So they're just like wibbly wobbly science stuff.
Yeah, what do you think about Casey's reaction?
So I don't blame the kid. Go back inside. Smart.
Perfectly justified.
Absolutely.
Yeah, outside world is screwed. Nope, not going there.
That must have been very jarring to realize this is what's been going on when you guys weren't paying attention. You know, because it's like, when was the last time Casey went outside the mall? He's never had a problem handling himself out there. And he's like, I should get out of here, you know, because I just confessed to trying to get someone kicked out of the mall. And this is what he sees out there. And it's terrifying. Like, holy, they're stoning people out here.
Yeah, that's
It's like-
crazy.
It's like the bad part of the Bible.
Yeah.
Inside. And it had to be really traumatizing to see that kind of chaos on the streets like that again. That would take me right back to the world ending. Like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm going back inside.
Yep.
I'd rather deal with the lynch mob in the mall than the lynch mob outside.
Yeah, because the lynch mob in the mall isn't likely to stone him to death.
Nope.
No, they've conveniently forgotten about his crime.
They did.
Yeah, but they seem so small in comparison to what's going on in the real world.
Yeah, I know that's the point. I guess it's just a pet peeve of mine.
He gets
That-
away with it.
Nobody addresses this. Nobody cares anymore. Like, you guys cared so much about this stupid 3 bottles of water. You got
Kick Bray out.
this freaking stupid trial, and now it doesn't matter. So you're admitting it was a waste of everybody's time.
Waste of time. What a farce. Bray was right.
If this episode wasn't so good, I'd never forgive him for the water trial.
Come on, everybody knew Casey was just protecting Lex.
Ah,
They knew. And well, now they get to shove Lex in isolation.
I was actually wondering about this. I was thinking about where the story goes and how great this episode is and all of the awesome shots, all the places the kids are going to go. And I was wondering, what was the point of the water trial? Because it really doesn't matter. It doesn't serve a purpose. It doesn't do anything for the story or the characters. So what did they do? And I was kind of wondering, this last third of season 1 requires a lot of location shots. And I couldn't help but wonder if they needed to kill time before they could start filming this part of the show.
it's possible.
It's possible, but I also think it was to finally get that issue between Bray and Lex out of the way. You know, Lex has been trying to get rid of Bray since, well, day 1.
Yeah,
And now he's had his big attempt, and it failed,
it did.
and it's over with. We don't talk about it anymore.
I do wish the water trial had been resolved a teensy bit better, but I understand the point. It was never important, and I get that, but I just wish I hadn't wasted my time with it. It's important.
Fair enough.
But I agree with you, Sabine, that for them to repair the Bray and Lex's relationship, they had to take it to its lowest form.
Yeah.
So they had to take it to a place of betrayal before they can surprise us by actually healing these boys and finally bringing them together, I guess.
Yeah, because now they've reached a point where, you know, all the petty little things between them don't matter anymore. It's about survival now.
They're just lucky this is a good episode. Because you see how forgiving I am, you guys? I'm so giddy.
Girl.
And that's the strength of this episode.
Yes, it made me forget everything. I was broiling with anger the last few weeks. I do like to think that the tribal gathering could have been a super spreader event.
For sure. Now that I'm looking at it and we were just talking about it, I'm like, you want to know what? It probably was.
I was just thinking, like, how much time literally goes by. You have this tribal gathering, and then Sasha's around for about 3 days, and then we have the 10-day time gap after he's gone. And it's like, yeah, that was plenty of time for the virus to take hold in these kids who were constantly intermingling with each other. And wow, that's pretty dark. Thinking of the tribal gathering that way now.
But I mean, on the other hand, we saw kids chained up together, yet Sasha and Amber were perfectly fine.
So was Dal.
We've seen Lex getting beaten up by Glenn, so apparently Glenn wasn't
Infected then.
Yeah.
He could have gotten infected later.
So maybe the mole rats got away from the gathering just in time, but they've interacted with so many people.
I don't know. I'm just saying it seems it could be likely. You never know.
Yeah, it starts with one person sneezing on another one.
Uh-huh. Or coughing in their face.
I do think it's probably more plausible that this virus spread so much at the gathering. I definitely agree with that. And I think the Mars just got lucky. That's all. I think they just got lucky that they didn't catch it when they were there.
And it absolutely does happen. So
yeah, all the time, you know. They just got lucky. They weren't there very long. And
they stuck to themselves.
Yeah, they weren't interacting that much with other people. They may have been close proximity to some people, but considering how the other kids were and how much time the other tribes spend together, I guess it just makes sense to me that they didn't catch it when they were there. They just got lucky.
Yeah.
Because we don't know how contagious it is. Like, for example, you can have chicken pox. You spread chicken pox before you even show symptoms of having chicken pox.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't really know when you become contagious with this virus. This is a mutation of it. It doesn't kill everybody. It does not have the same efficacy rate of the original strain. So, yeah, we just don't know. These are all possibilities. I think they're reasonable possibilities, but we don't know for sure when Glenn would be contagious. Clearly, he was contagious in this form because Lex gets it, but we don't know if he had it before, if he would have been able to give it to Lex.
I do wonder, though, because if we look at the gathering, Glenn was still with the Locos.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder, at what point did he manage to get away from the Locos like that?
Yeah, how did he escape? That's a good question. They're literally stoning stray infected kids on the street. How did Glenn get away with his life?
From the Locos.
Yeah. Another chapter in the saga that is Glenn. Oh no, now I'm seeing a sympathetic jailer. Maybe Glenn got out of there as soon as he first started seeing signs of the infection.
I'm thinking. Yeah.
And he's like, I gotta get away.
Maybe other people had already gotten sick and he knew what was going to happen. And yeah.
I mean, he says if I'd stayed out there any longer, I would have died. So.
Yeah. So fair point. He might have just ran for the hills the moment he started feeling the tiniest bit sick or saw that first gray hair.
Yeah, I'm like, I gotta get out of here. They'll kill me if they know I have this and that I've likely given it to some of them or they gave it to me. I'm out.
Yep.
I do love how the infected all have like hobo clothes.
Love it.
What happened to your clothes? Did your clothes get infected too?
Yes.
Glenn, where'd you get that outfit? What the heck?
From some other dead person?
What happened to your regular clothes, Glenn? What's going on? I love how the virus made his hair grow out. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's super fast. Holy yes.
He had short hair last time we saw him. You see how fast his hair grew in less than 2 weeks?
It's amazing.
It's his pandemic haircut.
It's because he's worth it.
Worth it, yes.
You know, I keep thinking that if the Locos hadn't caught Glenn the day we found this place, none of this would have happened. He would have been one of us, wouldn't he?
I suppose.
I know we've spoken quite a bit about Lex's bad karma coming back to bite him in the ass. But how funny was it for Zandra to mention this when during the conversation with Lex?
He deserved that.
Absolutely. I'm so glad she did.
One of the moments I love, Sandra.
The thing that's funny is she makes the comment with no sense of self-awareness.
Right. She always does. That's just the way Zandra is.
Like she's not saying it as a dig to Lex.
Yes.
Like, because we screwed over our friend, this is what happened to us. For her, she really just sees it as an act of fate. Like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, it could have been any of us this happened to. And Lex is like, yeah, sure. You know, because what happened to Glenn was a total accident. I had nothing to do with it.
But in his head, he's like, yeah, I really messed up that one.
All of this after Tyson mentioned the last episode that someone who would be this evil would get karma biting them in the ass.
Oh, Lex.
Never knew it worked that quickly.
Knowing what I know now about what Lex is going to go through, I definitely feel like this is karmic punishment. Put a lot of ugliness back in the world, and it bounced back and hits him tenfold. I'm not sure he deserves all of it, but not. I guess knowing the whole story, I'm not sorry it happened to him. He needed it for the growth. It was important.
Yes, it was important for the development.
You know, I appreciate him suffering. I do think it was smart, though, to take a character like Lex, who has very few good points going for him, and then torturing him like this.
Yes.
Like, he's the Cersei Lannister of his time.
I love it.
Like, think about it. When Cersei had to finally do the walk of shame, the same one she tried
that's
to set
where we're
Margaery
at.
up for.
Yes.
Everyone suddenly felt sorry for Cersei. You know, like, you guys, she's still evil. She still did all those evil things.
We are finally to that point in our rewatch, and I'm telling you, it is the most amazing thing in the world. I'm so glad to see Lex having to deal with his, his actions. His actions have consequences, and they're finally here.
If you're going to do something terrible to a character, sometimes it's best to do it to a character who the audience won't mind seeing something terrible, you know? And it's a smart way to win the audience back for that character, because you can make the audience empathize with them, make them question, well, yeah, Lex is a horrible person, but does he deserve this, you know? And
yeah, it wouldn't have had the same effect if it had been Dal or Ryan, you know?
That would have just felt like bullying. Like, come on, leave these characters alone.
May I just say I'm just for once glad that they didn't put it on Trudy.
Oh, that poor girl.
But yeah, this was very smart because it finally gives Lex a reason to show us more of who he is. So the writers were very clever to take advantage of this plot. Because it's so strong that it makes people forget his worst crimes. Like, people see him this way, being so noble and protective of Zandra, and they forget he tried to rape her. You know, they forget the things he's done that are just unforgivable, and they fall in love with him. So it was just really good, smart writing. And Caleb is great again.
Absolutely.
I love the fear in his eyes. I love Caleb's eye acting anyway. So.
His facial expressions are good. Bray's not so much.
Sorry, Dwayne.
Well, Dwayne's hen dog look is good. I like that one.
Yeah.
The reluctant martyr look that Bray does. Put it on a t-shirt, Dwayne. That's your look. You've coined that one. Because Dwayne does this head tilt and he looks at you with this open expression. And I'm like, boy band lead singer right there. He studied with the greats.
On Teen Girls, though.
All he needs to reach out his hand and say, hey, girl. And you're just,
It's worked so far.
That's what Bray is good at. I was wondering when Zandra did say that to Lex, like, if Glenn hadn't been caught. Considering the situation they were in, one of them had to get caught. Glenn getting caught is the only reason the other three got away. So if Glenn didn't get caught, either all of them would have been caught by the Logos or someone else would have had to be sacrificed.
Poor Ryan.
Right, you know, and so I was wondering, would they have walked the same path as Glenn? Glenn is so unique, and the times we've seen him have all been so different. You know, just the fact that he ends up back here full circle with these people. Would any of the rest of them been able to win over the Locos, you know, like Glenn did? And I don't know if it would have been the same if one of them got caught.
Yeah, I can't see it.
I don't see Lex winning over Zoot or any of the other Locos.
Oh, no, for sure.
Definitely not Ebony.
And I see Ryan, he might have, you know, been able to get out of slavery, but I don't see him, he wouldn't have been given like a leadership role like Glenn was.
No, he would have just been muscle.
Yeah.
And goodness knows what Ebony would have done to Zandra, another pretty girl in there. Good Lord.
Well, she would have sent him the ways of her sister, probably.
Okay, so that brings us to our final thoughts of the episode, which is the two iconic scenes. Yeah, unable to understand why Patsy has potentially been infected despite being a good person, Chloe breaks her free from her quarantine, stating to the others that she'd rather be virus too than be apart from her. Yeah, what was your initial reaction to that scene?
This is where my opinion changed, okay? When I first watched it, I'm like, oh, this is sweet. this is touching, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now, as I watch it, it angers a little part of me. And I get it, and I get why it had to happen, you know? Like, it's good for the story. But that's where my opinion of things changed.
I mean, I found it adorable that Chloe went to Patsy, but yeah, like Maggie, nowadays I would have just, seeing a kid doing that, I would have just gone, okay, then you two are going to quarantine together.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is where the show is able to utilize the reckless but beautiful optimism that children have that we don't anymore. If that had been my child had to go into isolation, let's say Tristan had to go into isolation because he could be sick, and I'm only agreeing to it because I have to protect the rest of the family. I got to protect his cousins and my brother and my parents. And Orion, who would totally do this, goes to her brother because there's just no way she would be separated from her brother, and she wouldn't understand that she needs to be. If I saw my two children standing there, I know the smart thing would be like, you guys both have to go in isolation because we got to protect everybody. But the inside me would be like, those are my kids. We are doing this together. And I know that my brothers would do the same thing. My parents would do the same thing.
I would do the same thing with my kids, absolutely, but it would be the three of us. You know what I mean? Just the three of us.
I'm going in there with you guys, and I wouldn't do that with a group of strangers that I was surviving with in the apocalypse. The zombies are here, and one of them got bit. No, So I agree with you. I do understand that looking at it from a responsible point of view, it's like, Chloe, this is very reckless, and you're risking everyone in the group, and you're using this very saccharine reason for it because she's your best friend. You know what I mean? And, I get it. She's the only kid your age, you know, but children don't think like we do. And I feel like this moment does capture that youthful sense that you can never really die, you know, and yeah, like the grown-up side of my brain is like, this is so irresponsible. Just put Chloe in the room with Patsy. If she really needs to be with her, just put them together. But I'm sorry, you guys. I'm a sad sack. Niagara Falls when this happened. I was blubbering. I knew it was coming. I was like, don't cry. Your allergies will get hacked. No, I just broken spigot. I couldn't help it. It's like, Chloe, I love you so much. You're so sweet.
And she is too. I mean, it was a sweet moment. I'm not going to say that it wasn't, and it was good for the story and the morale of the group, I guess, to really bring them together.
And it's true. The thing is, what you're dealing with, you kind of have to learn. I don't know. It's like you got to sink or swim together, you know? And the minute you start isolating people because they might be infected or whatever, you're separating yourself. And it works for this story. I'll just say that. Not saying it's reality, but it works for this story. Even that stupid, cheesy moment when... I'm sorry, when Casey runs up the stairs to join.
Bro, I'm so glad you said something. I was like, yeah, because that was completely necessary. Absolutely necessary.
Let's establish their family unit. And then they all walk down together.
Oh my gosh.
That was so awkward. Like, why did they do that?
Why? Yeah, why? Why? We need answers. We need answers now.
Max is my daddy now.
Oh, that was awkward.
Like, it made sense. It worked when Celine is the first one to break from the group to hug both Patsy and Chloe.
Yes.
And then turns around and says, they're right. We can't fight this if we start cutting ourselves off from each other. You know, we have to do this together, and we'll fight all the harder if every one of us is at risk. It worked when Celine did it. I know why they have Casey doing it, but yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah, it was so awkward.
Visually, it doesn't track at all.
He needs to just ask Xandra if she's his mommy now.
Oh gosh, are you my new mommy?
Oh man.
But again, as cheesy as it is, there's still something I love about Xandra running off to get Lex as soon as she realizes it's okay to do it, and then both standing so proudly. Her standing proudly next to her man. She feels for him. I said, for better or for worse, I'm here for you, baby. And
Mm-hmm.
I did like that. That was nice. So in case he just had to, he didn't like that she was getting all the attention. Okay.
It's a beat.
I forgive it, you guys. I forgive it. I know it's dorky. I don't care. I love it so much. I forgive it so much. I'm already crying. Bring on more cheese. I don't care.
And then that circle.
It was amazing. Okay.
Iconic circle.
You're gonna hold hands now.
The eye lock was just great between Bray and Lex.
I love that moment. Like, dude, we are brothers. Okay?
Yes. I have a graphic somewhere of that, and I love it. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how smart of it was for Amber to put Bray and Lex together.
Especially when you have the suspicions that Lex was still somewhat responsible for trying to get rid of Bray.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know,
Yep.
the fact that Bray doesn't even question holding Lex's hand, someone who could be infected. He's just like, okay, I guess we're holding hands now. He doesn't pull it away. It's like, yes, we are in this. Even if I hate you sometimes, you are my family, you jackass. You know?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a turning point for the two of them. Because again, we'll never see either of them betray the other again. They'll fight like brothers do. They will never be on the same. They'll never be like see things the same way. But they will forever be on the same side. And that's why I forgive any ridiculousness in the scene because it's such a turning point going forward for many of these characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was crying so hard. Theodore came in and jumped on the deck,
Oh.
staring at me like, "You okay, Mom?" These are happy tears, baby.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I love this episode so much. But again, if that was my kid, I'd be like, "You idiot! What the frick are you doing? He's just your brother, Orion. I can give you another one."
Did anyone have any thoughts about what could happen next?
Not really.
I didn't have a clue.
No.
Because I was surprised at this anyway, at this storyline. So I was just like, wow, okay. This is where the show's going now. I have no idea how they're going to deal with this. I thought, because I hadn't considered a virus as a plot point. It was, for me, it was just exposition to set up the reality these kids live in. So I wasn't one of those people who had questions about the virus or cared about it at all. So for them to suddenly go, we're going to give you some answers about this thing. I was like, oh, that's where we're going? Okay. I didn't know that this was what it was about. Fine, let's do this.
Oh, I was so happy that we were going to get answers. I needed answers.
Like, oh, the writers finally figured out the answer.
They was like, we got it.
We've been working for months to figure out what this virus is about.
Gonna drag this out as long as we can. Okay, we got it. It's fine.
Can you imagine if this had been like a season finale and how crazy you'd be going waiting for the show to come back?
Oh my gosh. That would be horrible. I remember the first time I watched it.
I feel like we've gotten over our sophomore slump. And yes, senior year, we're here. It's going to be fun. Woo! This plot gets good. Some good writing in this.
Yes.
So even though season 1 starts off kind of meandering, and then the second part of it just kind of, what the heck are we doing? It ends strong. I'll give it that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that brings episode 40 to a close. Thank you very much to the panel, and we'll see you next time for episode 41. So until then, bye.
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 Bye.